Hello and welcome to A Game of Ice and Fire. When last we left off, Martin Skrel, Bartholomew Storm, Radava Harclay, Sir Darren Forloren, and Nicholas made their way to Arlen to meet with Lord Camren Tyde about his lumber. On the voyage in the narrow sea, they got to know each other a little better and made some acquaintances with the crew of the Grey Swallow. When they arrived at the Silver Moon Harbor, they were greeted by Lozoros Jonatis, who then escorted them to Tyde Hall. They saw around them the state of disrepair that the entire island seems to be suffering from. Upon reaching Tyde Hall, they were greeted by Lord Camren and his court, and quickly learned that the rumors of his drunken revelry were, if anything, downplayed. They ate and drank with the Lord and several of his court before retiring to their rooms that had been prepared for them. Thali and Ironhand took the opportunity to walk the halls and observe more closely the condition of the rooms and converse with some of the guards, noting a disparity between the opulence on display from Lord Camren's advisors. After a night's rest and a hot breakfast, Lord Camren took them to meet his wife and sons. Their gravestones are laid next to Tyde Hall, and Lord Camren told of how a great storm in the narrow sea sank the ships his sons were taking back to Arlon after the War of the Usurper, and that his wife walked into the sea a year later in grief. And that is where we left off last time, with Lord Camren giving you this bit of information and saying that you came here for lumber, but he wants his sons and his wife back. So, what do you do?
Thali's hand is instinctually going to slowly go to rest on the hilt of his dagger. He's not going to make any sudden movements. He's just going to kind of relax his hand on the hilt of his dagger and look to kind of look around the rest of the party, but specifically take a peek at Radava to see what he does, and then kind of look to Martin to see what Martin says. In this instance, like, Thali is ready for anything, but hoping that through diplomacy his lord can do what he came here to do.
Yeah, Radava's kind of in the same boat. He definitely tenses and kind of sets his jaw. It doesn't look like he's making any real. He kind of just glances at Martin and waits to see what the person smarter than him has to say in response.
All right, Martin, what is your reaction?
Lord Tyde, you say your sons perished in the storm that brought our king's heir. I assume you were speaking of Daenerys?
That is correct.
Pardon me, but I don't understand how that is the doing of my family. You had me at a loss. I don't understand.
He kind of sets his jaw, takes the last bit of drink from his horn, and says, "Where would my ships have been if they had done something in that war? Would my sons have fought and stayed at King's Landing? Would they have made a difference in the Battle of the Trident? We could have been half a world away. But instead, we stayed at your port and died on our way back."
Your sons and ships would have done no good in Blackwater Bay. There's nothing that could have stopped those Lannisters from betraying King Aerys. Do you not understand that? There's our ships in one place or another would not have prevented him from being killed by the Kingslayer, Jaime Lannister.
We weren't even given the opportunity. It may be as you say, but what could we possibly know for sure? And he starts to...
We know for sure, Lord Tyde, that your ships and your sons were safe at harbor here, and you sent them, if I understand you correctly, to Dragonstone well after King Aerys's death. Daenerys was born several months later. I respect your loyalty, for sure, but sending them was your own decision and not at all caused by House Skrel.
Make a persuasion test.
Well,
you see a little bit of the anger leave his eyes, and it's replaced by the sadness that you saw when he came out here with you guys. And he says, "You may have the right of it there. Forgive me, I have been stewing on this for the past 15 years. Come, let us go inside and talk." And he turns without another word and slowly leads the group all back into the main hall, the Great Hall in Tyde Hall. And breakfast has been cleared away. The table is still out, and the seating is still arranged for you guys to resume your places there. He takes his seat.
Away. As they walk away, you Thali looks at Rodham and just kind of widens his eyes and dips his head a little bit, takes his hand off of his dagger.
Yeah, Rodham visibly unclenches every muscle in his body. And,
All of the sphincters.
yeah, every bodily sphincter he has sort of relaxes, and he lets out this slow breath as they wander in and follow Lord Tyde.
Alright, well, you guys are free to resume your seats at the table. With you is still Nicholas and Sir Darren, but the advisors that are accompanying Lord Camren are Lazoros, Stranatus, and Destin Boatwright. The Castellan, Sir Rock, is also accompanying and taking a seat at the table. So if there is anyone whom you'd like to sit near or next to, if you wish to have any sort of side conversations, let me know. Now or forever hold your peace.
I'm gonna want to sit with our folks.
I will be sitting next to Radha.
Yeah. I think Radava is just going to sit the same place he was the night before. He's grown attached to the chair.
Alright. Lord Tyde is going to resume his seat at the head of the table and call for drinks for everyone. Wine, beer. It is about 10 in the morning at this point. So... yeah, and once the servants come out with the drinks, everyone is able to partake in whichever type of drink they wish. You see he gets a big mug of ale in front of him. Lazoros is sticking to his Arbor Golds, and Destin Boatwright is sipping some dark beer that you see. The knight, Sir Rock, is not partaking at the moment. But you see next to you, Sir Darren Forloren is having himself a glass of looks to be a thinner beer than what Destin is having. And Nicholas is just going to have water at the moment.
Turn to my friends and say, "Can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning." I kind of wave my hand like this.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth?
I
Radova
will-
waves a hand and passes on any alcohol.
And I say to the servant, is that an ale the Lord has?
Yes, would you like some as well?
Yes, please, the same.
All right, and she pours you a mug of your own ale as well. Tastes pretty good. It seems to be pretty fresh. Hasn't sat in a keg for an extraordinarily long amount of time. And is a pleasant kind of a summer beer. So kind of has some fruity notes to it as well. Is that what Tholly wants to? I see the hand waving over the pizza. So, yes, the servant comes around and pours you a mug of that as well, Tholly. At that, once everyone looks like they have their drinks, Lord Camren says, "Now it is down to business. You wanted my lumber. How much were you prepared to pay for it?"
Well, Lord Tyde, it would be lumber that we would purchase from you over the course of about 3 years. I don't think, I know you'll have to put them into work, but 750 gold, so 250 gold dragons a year, seems reasonable to me.
At that, you see Lazoros, who is sitting next to Lord Camren, kind of lean over and whisper in his ear something that none of you are close enough to really hear or make out. And you see Lord Camren look up, and he's got his kind of stone face back on, and he says, "Your father. I understand he paid a ransom for you not that long ago. How much did he pay for you?"
For me? I don't know.
How much is the life of one son worth to your father?
Radova cracks his knuckles.
I would believe we had put the debt of your sons on your shoulders, Lord Tyde, as opposed to it being on that of my family. We did what we could to prevent their lives being lost, and you sent them along into what would be their doom. Do you mean to threaten my life here under your roof, between these walls, after offering me salt and bread?
No, of course I wouldn't ever threaten your life. I just want to know what a son's life is worth. I have lost 3 and a wife. Your father wants my lumber. I want them back. How much is that worth?
Do I know how much my father paid for a ransom?
Yes, he paid 5,000 gold dragons. Granted, after Thali and Iron Hand and company went and took out the pirates, he recovered all of that. But that was the ransom that he paid to the outlaws on the shores.
Well, I don't know what my father would have paid, but he did pay at least 1,000 gold. But that did not end well for the ransomers, as our ships captured them, and those that weren't dead were brought in as prisoners, and they were lashed, and then also hung from the battlements. So my father paid nothing but brute force.
Okay, go ahead and... Ooh, I may have you make 2 tests for this one. No, I won't. Make a persuasion test, and if you have... This is, what bonus dice do you have in
I have a bonus
persuasion?
in insight and taunt.
Taunt. This is... If you would like to use the bonus dice from Taunt, I think that might be appropriate for this.
Correct? Talking about, baby. That's what I'm talking about. 17.
17. At that, he looks back at Lazoros with a kind of a questioning look. Lazoros leans back over, looks around a little bit first, and then leans back over and whispers something else to him, and he kind of sits back up. I see. Your father is a resourceful man. What do you say to 5,000 gold dragons? That is only
5,000, you say? 5,000 gold dragons? Do you take us for Lannisters? Do you take us for Oathbreakers and King Slayers?
I do not. I take you for men of your word. And I would like some recompense for the ships and for the sons that I lost fighting that war. You're right. I can't lay all of that blame at your feet. But I need something.
But you are choosing to lay a handsome bit of it at our feet. Actually, it seems you would say we are at fault for your sons dying. Though, had you listened, or not listened, but just obeyed and kept your ships at port, your sons would be alive. You would have your sons. You would have a family. This place wouldn't be in this state that it's in now. We're offering you gold to rebuild your house, to put your people at work, to do what you can to make a name for yourself again? Shall you just fall in obscurity because you choose to hold on to a grudge of your own making?
I have already fallen. You know that I have no sons. I am old, I have no heirs. When I die, my lands go back to the Dornish seat. I have no one to carry on after me.
Indeed, but you, Lord Tyde, are not so old that you could not sire another son or heir or daughter. How old is Lord Tyde? How old would I know about how old he is?
Yeah, roughly middle-aged, looks to be late 40s, early 50s, somewhere around there. And looking him over, again, he's pretty tall, a little over 6 feet, relatively thin. He's got kind of shoulder-length white hair, with green eyes. He is not an unattractive man for his age. It looks like the drink has taken a bit of a toll on him. I mean, you've seen the broken veins in his nose, and you've seen kind of the flush in his cheeks and the bloodshot eyes. But, you know, you're not seeing quite the... You know, he's like I said, he's not an unattractive man for that age. You see your words kind of hit home, and seems like something he hasn't put much thought into. Whether that be the morning or just, you know, constantly in a state of drunkenness since all of this went down. For the purposes of this, I think we should go ahead and start an intrigue. This one will be a little bit more complicated than the one that we had the very first session. But we'll kind of follow a lot of the same rules and whatnot. So we've already pretty well set the scene, and I know that you guys are trying to essentially bargain over price for the lumber at this point. And all of that. So go ahead and figure out what you want your disposition to be. And this will go for all three of you if you plan on partaking at all in this intrigue. Go ahead and let me know, or just to yourselves make a note of what your disposition to Lord Camren is. Those dispositions are on 144 in the handbook, and they range from affectionate to malicious. And I can go over kind of how all of that stuff works again. I will say, I do think I had the deception and persuasion modifiers. I did those wrong last time. I had them adding or removing from their rolls instead of two rolls like opposing them, which is how they're supposed to be done. So, you know, a persuasion modifier for someone that you are affectionate to, that will increase the chances that you will be successful with that persuasion. That's how that works. So go ahead and set that where you think is appropriate, and we will get some initiative rolls here in a sec. So initiative for this is your status with bonus dice in something. Let me see where that's listed. There it is.
Yeah, me too.
Let's see.
Pretty damn good roll.
Not technique. Initiative. There it is. From reputation. So if you have any bonus dice in reputation, you can use those. But if not, let me get theirs. Sounds like everybody's got some good rolls over there.
I mean, it's not an awful roll. It's just not a lot of roll.
Have a lot to roll.
Yeah. Exactly.
Uh-huh. All right. So what do we got over there?
With
Eight.
Tan?
Oh.
Wait, what?
8.
8 from Iron Hand. All right.
9.
A 9 from Thali. And Martan?
24.
Nice.
Oh! All right.
We can use this. We'll be fine. We'll be all right.
Dang, that was a really solid roll. How many dice are you rolling?
5, 3 6s, a 5, and a 1.
Wow. All right.
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, you actually beat his roll, so you will be going first. So for this, you are you essentially have an action that you can use,
You want
and
that
you
Reese's
can
Piece?
use it to do any of those techniques that you saw on there, any of them that make the most sense. So yeah, let me know which technique you're using, and let me know the roll that you get.
Alright, I would like to use empathy reaction to try to determine his disposition. towards
Okay.
me.
Let's see, that's the read target thing?
Yeah.
All right.
To an awareness, I believe.
Yeah, so you're
Or
gonna make an
awareness
awareness,
plus minus.
awareness against their passive deception. If you equal or beat their test result, you learn their disposition and the technique that he uses for this exchange. And as a result, you'll gain a bonus test dice on all deception and persuasion tests for the duration of the intrigue. So go ahead and make your awareness test.
Okay. Do you need to know my disposition towards him yet?
Not yet.
How much? It's a 10.
It is a 10. That is not going to do it. Alright, so that is the end of your turn, I believe. I think with intrigues, you only really can do one thing at a time. Alright, so he is going to make his test. Let's see, we're going to do... Alright. Alright. Yeesh. Not terribly good. 10? 10 does that beat your intrigue defense?
Sure does not.
Alright, so he... You can see that in his argument, he himself doesn't really feel super strongly. He doesn't feel as strong about it as he did earlier this morning. So his arguments in this first segment, kind of what we've already been going through, you can see that they're kind of falling flat in his own mind, and you are unaffected by this. Thali, you are up next. What would you like to do?
I can aid, right?
So, let me see. Yes, during an intrigue, you may support another character's arguments, encouraging them as they debate and argue. If you succeed on a persuasion challenging, so a 9 persuasion test, you can lend 1/2 of your persuasion rank rounded down as a modifier to your ally's conflict test result. So, I know that you don't have much persuasion.
No, I do not.
But if you can beat a 9, you can give him an extra point on...
I mean, mathematically, it's possible.
It is possible.
Not likely, but possible. Yeah, so, I mean, my whole job here in general is to aid Martan. So, that's what I'm going to try and do. I think that's the most useful thing that I can do anyways.
I will... Have you looked through the other options for what your character can do, for what you can do in an intrigue, just out of curiosity? Because there are other things that you could do.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, there's things like consider. You give up your action for the exchange. You gain 2 bonus dice on any one test you take during the next exchange. Bonus dice gained in this way cannot exceed your rank in the ability you're testing. They wouldn't because you have a 2 in persuasion. Once you roll a test and use these bonus dice, excess bonus dice are lost. So you could essentially give up your turn this turn to gain 2 bonus dice on something the next round, giving you perhaps a better chance at an assist, or if you wish to actually attempt to join the argument yourself, you could do that. There is fast talk. You unleash a stream of nonsense in the hopes of distracting your opponent and putting them off guard. Making a persuasion test against the target's passive will result. If you achieve at least 2 degrees, the target loses his cunning rank from his intrigue defense until the end of the next exchange. Their influence is the one that pretty much everyone will be doing to actually take part. So that's what both of them have just done. Or no, that's not what Martin did. That's only what Lord Skrel or Lord Camren did.
I'm gonna attempt to seduce him. No, I think that convince is a good call. I mean, sorry, is that what you said? Convince?
Consider.
Consider. Sorry. I was just looking at it and then it went away.
Yeah, all of those are listed on page 150 if you're just typing it in the little bar up at the top. So, yeah, feel free to take time to read through those. I've gone through most of them, but there are a couple that might be of
well,
use to you.
it's also not Thali's strong suit to do any sort of talking, so I mean, that doesn't mean that the player should not be as familiar with them, but I know that that's a section that I'm like, aha, Thali's not going to be doing much of that. But okay, so yeah, I'll consider. So yeah, he just kind of sits back and observes, and I'll take those bonus dice on the next go round.
All right, sounds good. Iron Hand, what are you going to do?
Who all is engaged in this intrigue? Is it just us and Lord Tyde?
Currently, it is the 3 of you and Lord Tyde, yes.
Okay.
There are other people at the table essentially on both sides, if you want to think of it that way. But as of yet, none of them have spoken up, and you get the impression that as of right now, they are not planning to.
Then I think the first thing that Radova wants to do is I would like to read target on Lord Tyde.
So you go ahead and make your awareness test.
Ooh. That is 16.
That just meets it. So you succeed, and you now learn the technique that he is using. He is using the bargain technique. And you also gain a test dice on all deception and persuasion tests for the duration of the intrigue. Now, since you are already at the disadvantage by having a flaw in persuasion, you may use this yourself so that you are essentially back up at a level playing field with 2 dice in the thing. But I will also allow you to do what we did before. You may bestow that bonus test dice on someone else should you wish.
Radova's gonna lean over to Martin and maintain eye contact with Lazoros while he effectively does the same thing and murmurs to Martin low enough that they cannot hear across the table. And he kind of leans down. I don't believe him for a minute. It ain't just about his sons, it ain't just about his wife. There's something else, but I don't know what it is yet. But he's driving a hard bargain, and he's not looking to stop. I'll see if I can't pick anything out from him, but just keep in mind that he wants as much money from you as possible. And bestow my test die to Martin.
Okay. Well, that ends the first round and brings us back up to the top, which is Martan. Martan, what are you doing?
All right.
Oh,
I
sorry.
will-
Before we get there, I forgot. Radava, you also learn his disposition. His disposition is dislike. So, for everyone, that means that he is going to have a disposition rating of 5, meaning that any essentially influence damage that's coming towards his composure is going to be reduced by 5. And he's got a persuasion modifier of -2, so all persuasion rolls get a -2 to them against him. Deception is +1, so any deception rolls made against him will actually get a +1 to them. So, that being said, now that everybody knows what his disposition is, now, Martin, you may take your turn.
Well, I will use Shield of Reputation.
Okay, let me
And,
look where that is. Scroll back down there. Yeah, so you may fall back on your reputation and status to influence your opponent. You make a status test against their base will result. If you equal or beat the target's base result, that target's disposition automatically improves by 1 step. You may use this action only once per entry. Nice. Alright, so go ahead and make that status test.
Just the clattering of dice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's got a 5 in there, so... In status.
Oh, a 5.
Okay, not as big as I had hoped for, but not bad. 14.
14 does beat it. So you improve his disposition by 1 step, meaning that he goes from dislike to indifferent.
Let's go.
So
Nice.
now your persuasion modifier and deception modifier are 0, and his disposition rating goes down to 4. Nice. That's a good one to get in early.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah. All right. So now it is back to his turn. Make his roll. Wow.
Yeah, that's right. Keep rolling,
It's not good.
Dad. Yeah.
That is a 12.
I like that pause there.
Never know.
against my intrigue
Against
defense.
your intrigue defense, yeah.
All right. Well, mine's an 11, so that's gonna do it.
Okay, so that's 1 degree of success, and he is using, what did I say, bargain, which
Bargain.
is cunning. So, now we need to know your disposition to him, because I need to know how much to reduce your. Actually, yeah, I need to know all of this stuff. So, what is your disposition towards him?
My disposition towards him would be indifferent.
Okay. In that case, he is not going to have any effect on you. The disposition rating of indifferent is enough to take care of the damage that would be coming in. So he attempts to rally himself and make a stronger argument, but you have already seen the effect of your words on him, and it does not make a difference to you at all. All right, Folly, you're up.
Okay. So, if I'm understanding how this all works, you're gonna have to help me a scooch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem.
I think I want to try to charm him.
Okay. So yeah, you can roll.
It's about cultivating the friendship thing.
Okay.
So Thali's plan is he's gonna say, Your Lordship, I mean no disrespect. My lord is trying to offer you gold for lumber. That's why we're here, and I am here to help my lord do this. I am sure that we can help in other ways. Perhaps we can send men to help build or rebuild certain places. We could have men to the same that are helping to load the lumber can maybe work for a season for you and help get this place shipwright again. It's my goal that we come to a mutual agreement of mutual beneficence. So that's kind of where he's how he's
Okay,
approaching.
go ahead and make your roll. And if you want to use your 2 bonus dice on this, you may.
I got a 10.
10 is not going to do it.
Yeah, I know.
He,
That's all I got.
yeah,
So I'm doing my best.
yeah. He hears you and responds with, "My men are perfectly capable of handling the lumber. You don't have a forest on your island. What do your men know of trees?" And we move over to Iron Hand.
Real quick before we get to Iron Hand,
Okay,
this is
yeah.
not story related. This is like mechanics related.
Mm-hmm.
A 10 is 2 away. Like a 10 is 2 away from the best that I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You can get there. It's gonna be hard.
That's kind of
a
my
10,
question.
A 10 was like, it's right there.
All right.
It
All
was
right.
almost there.
Make sure I'm not over here spinning my wheels.
No, I wouldn't let you roll if you didn't have a chance of making a difference.
Great.
So.
How considerate.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks, bud.
Yeah. All right, Iron Hand.
I know what I want to try.
Okay, what do you want to try?
So tell me if this will fly or not. I want to use read target again,
Okay.
but specifically, I want to look at Lazoros and his relationship to Lord Tyde.
Okay. Go ahead and make your awareness roll. I will let you add. What bonus? Do you have bonus?
I have a
dice
bonus
somewhere?
die and notice.
In notice.
Mhm.
I'll let you use it for this.
I
I'll
like that.
explain why in a second.
That is not what I want it to be. That's a 16.
16 will succeed. So you will learn his disposition. His disposition is also dislike. And for this, I think it makes more sense to give information, maybe not necessarily, because he's not involved in the intrigue currently,
Right.
so he's not using any real techniques or anything for you to learn. In thinking over what you saw, both in the yesterday and this morning, seeing him right at the docks, dressed in his fine yellow silks, in people had on display, you remember that he seemed to be doing very well for himself.
Mm-hmm.
And you put together that his advice is really about money. That seems to be what he's all about. His goal is to get Lord Camren to extort you as much as possible.
Okay.
Yeah. So that being said, I will let you bestow, instead of an extra test dice for this one, I'll let you use an extra bonus dice on. You can bestow it, or you can use it yourself on another test for this intrigue.
Okay.
With that result.
All right.
All right. That brings us back to the top. Martan, what are you doing?
All right. Did all right. Were those did Radova pass off 2 bonus dice to me?
He
The previous
bestowed,
read thing,
he
yeah.
bestowed 1 extra test dice to you. So
extra test
effectively, if you're using persuasion, your persuasion goes up by 1 rank for this one. So you still get the same bonus dice for whatever technique that you were going to use, but your rank effectively goes up by 1 for the duration of the intrigue. You have
The whole
that.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So it's not like a one and done expenditure.
It is. Yeah, it's
Right.
on both deception and persuasion, I believe.
Yeah, you can use it for either one.
All right. Well, then, nothing that he has said has really had an influence on me. However, I will use consider. I will essentially give up my turn. Just seem like I'm thinking over what he's saying and what has been said
Okay.
in the discussion, and make a motion for him to continue.
All right. So you will get an extra 2 bonus dice on your next test. That brings it back around to his turn. So he will go ahead and make his roll. This is better. That is an 18.
Yep, that'll have an effect.
All right. Your defense is what again? Remind me.
11.
11. All right. So that is 2 degrees of success. So this time you were indifferent.
Correct.
Cool. That is still just enough. That is just enough to reduce his intrigue influence to a 0.
Damn. That's rough.
Exactly. Yeah. He may be changing his technique here in a second. Because this is not working. Okay. That brings it over to Thali. That was a good roll for him, too.
I'm gonna consider again. I liked sitting back and getting a few extra dice to roll.
It does.
I spoke and then I was like, oh man, I forgot I was an idiot. So I'm gonna sit back and listen. So I'm gonna bank on those 2 bonus dice for next time.
All right. That brings it back to Iron Hand.
Radova's going to lean forward before he launches himself into these negotiations and is going to look at Lazoros, look at Lord Tyde, before turning to Martan and very quietly. I don't know if this will work. Certainly not coming from my mouth. But I think I have a plan. If you can follow my lead, your lordship, I think I found a chink in their armor, so to say. Lord Tyde isn't going to believe a word that any of us says in earnest. But I think there's a weak point with his man Lazoros. You'll see what I mean. He's going to lean back and kind of like drum his fingers on the table. And I'm going to use the influence action with a deception roll.
Okay.
Which will be two test dice. 2 test dice plus a bonus from that previous read target on Lazoros. And I think I am attempting to use... Let me see here. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I'm going to be using the taunt technique with this influence.
All right, so make your deception roll.
Not that it's going to do a whole lot of anything. Yeah, that's an 8.
8. That is unfortunately not enough.
No.
That does not quite hit.
So, you know, the words kind of bounce off of his forehead, but Radova kind of looks between the two of them, Lord Tyde and Lazoros, and if you don't mind my saying, and I mean no offense by this, I promise you, but seems to me like you'd already have most of your glory and at least a couple of heirs back were it not for your man Lazoros here sucking you dry. Metaphorically, of course. Whatever you do in the comfort of your own homes is up to you. But your man here's dressed better than you.
Dolly goes when he does that, and goes.
Your man's dressed better than you. His room's better than yours. He's spending a lot of your money, my lord, and far be it from me to question the wisdom of keeping such a man as that on your payroll, but it doesn't seem to be doing you a whole lot of favors. And he kind of looks around the hall in its sort of shabby state, and just sort of shrugs and looks at Martin and then leans back.
Okay. Well, that may have not had a mechanical effect, but it
Words mean something. Colin, words mean something.
in looking around at the room, you notice that Destin Boatwright is looking over at you, and after glancing quickly at Lazoros to make sure that he's not watching him, he kind of gives you a nod of approval.
Yes.
Nice.
All right, that brings us back around to Martin.
Turning the enemy against the enemy.
Listen, man, Radova's a pirate.
That is beautiful.
You brought this man here and you wanted him to fight fair? Come on.
All right, Martin, what you doing? You've got a whole bunch of extra dice now.
A whole bunch of extra dice now.
Yeah. Boy. Alright. Well then. I kinda furrow my brow and look up and well, I certainly thought it rude and still do to point that out, but I am sorry to say, Lord Tyde, but this Lazoros is has himself put together in a manner more befitting a lord than an advisor. Silk dressings. He smelled nice when we came in as well. Perhaps you seem to. Well, I don't. Well, yes, I do dare to say it. I believe that he has been influencing you in a manner that is not to your not to your pockets or Coffer's best interest. I will be using insight.
Oh, okay. That actually is appropriate here for this. Yes, go ahead.
The words of Fred Durst.
So that means that you've got your extra test dice. If you have any bonus dice in Insight, which I believe you do,
I do.
you also get the 2 bonus dice from your Consider. So
Yeah.
give me so whatever
And
that roll is.
And that extra test dice from me, if I recall, if you're not factoring that in.
Yeah. So wait. All right. So 2 bonus for the insight, and 1 extra test dice from Radova, correct?
That's correct. And I don't have your character sheet pulled up, so I'm not looking at your rank right now, but
It's not often I get to play an effective support character in a tabletop game.
Especially in an intrigue when your character has a flaw in persuasion. You're using your awareness in an intrigue to provide some benefits. All right, what'd you get, Martan?
21.
A 21. That is 3
My
degrees
boy.
of success, and that is insight. So it is based on your cunning rank, which is what?
My cunning is a 4, excuse me.
A 4. So 4 times 3 is 12, reduced by 4. So that is 8 going through to his composure. And that seemed to have an extraordinary effect on his demeanor. Not quite enough to win him over, but that seemed to take an extremely large chunk out of his composure.
Right.
Alright, so then he will, let's see, he wants to do something different, because this isn't working for him. Alright. Let's try this. That is a 15, which I think is still only 1 degree of success, right? You have an 11?
I have an 11, correct.
Alright, yeah, so only 1 degree of success. It would be 3 this time, but it's still reduced by 4. That is not enough to do anything. You see that he is kind of changing his tactic. He is talking less about the monetary gains now and is trying to calm the kind of heated emotions that have gone across the table. He's trying to kind of pacify and bring back the cooler heads from earlier to make this more of an actual negotiation instead of there being threats flung across the room and whatnot. But you are able to see right through that trick, and it has no effect on your composure. So that is his turn. Thali, you're up.
I am going to now do what I should have done last time, but I got excited and tried to do something else. And I'm gonna assist. So I'm gonna try and send some dice in the direction of the man who's doing all the work and all the damage.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, Thali's just gonna kind of look around and say, I mean, Destin's your master of coin, and he doesn't even look as good as... He's like trying to kind of go, because Destin was like, you know what I mean? And so now he's like, he doesn't even look as good as Lazaros.
All right. Go ahead and make your test with your bonus from the consider.
I got a 10.
A 10 is enough. All right. So you get to add half of your persuasion rank to Martin's rolls.
Is it a 1 or is it a 1 dice?
It is
Value, right?
I think it's just the value, so I think it's just a 1. But
Take that 1. Sorry.
that one does help.
Every little bit, yeah.
Every little bit does help.
Okay, I mean, that's the
Fucking do.
a success or failure.
And
Yeah.
like, Thali is just
And it
like,
might make the difference between like a degree of success or two. So
It's true.
But
Yeah.
Thali is like mouth half full of bacon and just like eating breakfast. Like Thali is just taking breakfast right now while all this is going on. Drinking beer. Every time they come around, if he gets low, he's like,
yeah.
just living it up in the city.
All right, that brings us back to Iron Hand.
Radava's gonna just like kind of subtly under the table nudge Martan in an encouraging sort of way, and then sit back and consider.
Okay.
Nice.
You'll get your 2 bonus the next round. Brings us back up to the top. Martan, your turn.
Do a 10.
All right. Well, oh, I do have one quick question.
Shoot.
So, so for the effect of insight to like take place vis-a-vis like damage to someone's disposition, does that involve? Is that like the end at like the final step of the intrigue? Like once the intrigue's over, that's taken into effect. That's not like an in between thing that happens.
You're looking at the consequences of defeat part.
Yeah.
For that, okay.
Yeah.
Let me read through it real quick. Inciting a target involves turning the opponent against another opponent, usually by producing evidence of betrayal, vile acts, or revealing any other sordid details your opponent might find repugnant. Insight is often powerful, but it produces short-term effects. An incited target's attitude to the individual or organization or house you indicate shifts a number of steps downward equal to your persuasion rank. Each day after you use insight on the target, his attitude towards the target improves by once. Okay. Yes, that would be the consequences of succeeding at the end with this. Now, you landed a solid blow with that, so at the end of this intrigue, if you've used multiple different techniques, if you've used multiple different ones, if there is a reason for there to be fallout from those different techniques in multiple ways, then as the story allows for it, I'll make them all useful. In this case, the way that you guys have noticed the relation with Lazoros and Lord Camren and are essentially succeeding fairly well so far in exploiting that knowledge,
Yeah,
this is going to have an effect after this is over. Most likely, if you guys manage to succeed through all of this. So,
Well
yeah.
then. Okay.
I'm back, baby.
Good.
I am going to I am sorry, Lord Tyde. That bar was unbecoming of me. And I would genuinely like for us to just make this deal happen. As I said, I did offer 250 gold per year for the lumber. I don't think my father would have an issue if we bumped that up to, say, 300 a year. I am genuinely sorry for your loss, and would like us to be able to work together, our houses again, and perhaps make something of it that we can both benefit. Gold for you, lumber for us, and if down the road we would need to negotiate some more, perhaps use of our ores from the mines we intend on building, or issues with trade through our ports, I'm sure my father would be more than happy to discuss that with you. And I will use bargain.
Alright, go ahead and make your roll. You still have the bonus test dice on this one.
Yeah.
True, and I guess, James, to an extent, to be more clear, the thing that I was offering in my original thing was not men to help with the lumber. It was men to help with the building of their palace. Like men to I'm thinking
okay.
that something that we could do would be offer them help in the term of numbers. I don't know if that's something that we have in our in our ranks, but that's where I was headed with that.
Okay, I definitely misunderstood that. My bad.
No worries. I'm still trying to find this man's voice, and so
Yeah, I've got a lot of characters to juggle around, so there may be some similarities between some voices, but I am no Mercer.
And I do add Josh's assist on that one, correct?
Yes,
One.
you will get the extra point from assist. Correct.
It's a 17.
17. All right, that is 2 degrees of success, and that was, you said, bargain.
Correct.
All right, that uses your cunning rank as well, so I think that's what, an 8 coming in, reduced by 4, so 4. At this, we will introduce something that we didn't do last time either. At this, Lord Camren looks to be a bit frustrated. He is going to take a level of frustration to not have to take that damage. And instead, he will take a level of frustration. So, for frustration, these are kind of like wounds in combat, in that they reduce all incoming damage to 0 at the cost of essentially a penalty dice on all subsequent rolls for him for the duration of the intrigue. Which is one thing. It would be one thing if he was actually having any success with this so far, but he, as yet, is not, and so he will probably continue to not.
Well, we can hope at least.
So, so he looks to be getting a little frustrated with how the tables seem to have turned on him from the hand that he thought he held at the beginning of the day to where we are now. And he's a couple drinks in, and I will roll his now reduced rolls.
Jesus.
playing the dead kid card for the last 15 years.
Yep. All right, that is exactly 11, which means that it's gonna be a degree of success, but it's still not enough to actually deal any damage. So yeah, you look at him, and he seems to, be getting a little frustrated. He can only take levels of frustration up to his will rank. So you don't know what his will rank is, but he can only take that many levels of frustration.
I want to put this man in the ground. Metaphorically.
Well, before he loses, he would lose the intrigue that way. But
Yes.
But yes. All right. So that is his turn again. He's starting to see walls closing around him, and is aggravated that one of his advisors is being called out, and is, in this moment he can't really form a solid argument against you, and his hit does not succeed in any sort of influence. So that brings it to Thali.
Is there a castle cat? And can I be feeding that cat fish from breakfast under the table?
Looking around you with your passive awareness, you do notice a few cats. It's more than one. It is not uncommon for there to be several cats in the castle, some of which seem fat and plump and well groomed, seem to be like maybe the ladies, the knight's wife's cats, well taken care of. There also seem to be some rat catcher cats, and just some that are old and ornery and aggravated at everything. So if you wish to try and feed some of those cats, you may absolutely.
I mean, Thali is gonna try and feed the rat catcher cats, like the cats that are more like him than the plump, prissy ones.
All right, go ahead and make an animal handling check.
Hell yeah. I bet I don't have any kind of animal handling. Y'all don't. Here we go. We're rolling raw, boys. I got a 6.
A 6. All right, that is exactly what you needed to do. What you wanted to do. In looking out across the cats that you see, you land on one that has very dark fur, brown, almost black, and green eyes, and it's got a tear in its right ear, and is just kind of keeping to the corners and keeping a watchful eye out, and you make eye contact with it, and you do a little pss, 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 and with some of the fish from the table, and the cat kind of gives it the little look, kind of scurries up a little bit, stops, scurries up a little bit more, and then snatches it out of your hand real quick, and then kind of backs off a little bit, but keeps its eyes on you just in case there's any more of that coming.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going for, and I will consider.
Consider, yeah. An excellent use of consider.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to Iron Hand.
What did I do last time? I considered, right? I'm pretty sure I
You
considered.
did. Mm-hmm.
That sounds right. I'm gonna, well, because I can't do a whole lot else, really. I'm gonna influence again with deception.
All right. Make your roll. Let me know what you get.
That's much better. Yeah.
Hey.
That's a 12.
A 12 hits. What is...
Literally the perfect roll.
Nice.
Well, yeah. All right. So, what is your? Let's see. That you said you were using a deception, and you are taunting. Is that right?
Yes. Yes,
So
I
that's
am.
your awareness
Because
rank.
that's based off of awareness.
Yeah. I figured that's why you were using that. It also makes sense here. So your
Yeah.
awareness is a 5. Is that right?
I think it's a 4. It's only a 4.
Is it only a 4?
It is only a 4. I have
All
a
right.
bonus dice and notice, but it is only a 4.
Okay. All right. Well, that is enough to make him take another point of frustration.
Oh, does that stack that that die?
Now it's 2. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Ooh, let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Radova just doesn't even look like he wants to move or wants to be there. He looks bored in a way that, like, certainly Thali and Martan have never seen him bored. He is laying it on thick. Just kind of... And here I heard there was all sorts of drinking and glory to be had here. It's just sad swill. I swear, if he didn't have that man whispering in his ear, poisoning him against his friends and his companions, he'd have had someone to grieve with instead of sitting here drowning himself. Almost sounds like he's talking to himself, but it's a little bit too loud for that.
Okay. Yeah, he's starting to get very frustrated with this. You can see that he's almost at wit's end here.
Ollie, who's half paying attention, kind of cuts to Radova, and he's like, "I am whispering, and it's not poison; it's fish." He thinks he's talking about the cat. He's not paying attention.
All right, that brings us to the top. Martan, your turn. Once you get done chewing.
Right.
Not chew through it. Chew through the pain.
Alright, well. I will look up from my cup, and as I look at the head of the table, I'll let my eyes stop and look at Lazaros for a few moments and say, "I'm sorry, Lord Tyde, but originally you, well, flat out would have tried to extort us when we come to you with an offering of good faith. It would lead me
to have no other choice than to believe that Lazaros, dressed over there in his very fine clothes, is, well, either not sharing what he has with you or is bleeding you dry. And we'll use insight again.
Okay, go ahead and make your roll.
Push that knife in.
That's right.
The bonus was good, but
It's funny because like I genuinely want to help this guy, but there's like
14.
14?
14.
Okay, and that uses... Let's see, that was... How much damage is that coming in?
14, what's that, 1 degree?
That is 1 degree, yeah.
4.
4? Alright. At that, you see his frustration kind of boil over, and he roars through the hall. Everyone out! My guests, return to your rooms. Lazaros, be gone from my sight. Destin, accompany me to my solar. I would speak with you. And he gets up and storms off. You are able to, for mechanics' sake, see that he has taken on levels of frustration that he cannot. And you understand that your arguments have hit home and have succeeded. You are not necessarily escorted back to your rooms, but guided there by some of the guards and
strongly
by,
encouraged back.
Yeah. You may.
Any of the guards that we recognize?
No, they are.
I
They were.
recognize.
They were night shift guards, so they are not around right now. They are You gather that they're probably sleeping. But yeah, the other ones do guard you back to your rooms. If you wish to group up in the same room to converse a bit, you may. But you'll have a little bit of time here to, speak amongst yourselves should you wish to take it.
I absolutely think we should.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Okay. So, do you all go to the same room?
I motion them to come with me to my room.
Okay. Sir Darren and Nicholas also join. So, there are 5 of you in your rooms. They were all relatively similar in furnishings and amenities. So, it's nothing that you guys were not familiar with in your own rooms. There is a desk and a bed, not really chairs, I mean, like one chair, but not, enough for everybody to take a chair. Yes, you are left to talk. What would you like to do?
So, that went poorly.
Oh, I don't know. We walked out of it alive, didn't we? I think that's about as good as we could expect from this.
I understand you being, perhaps pleased isn't the correct word, but amenable to that. I was sent here by my father to make a deal, and I don't know that we accomplished that.
Perhaps not yet.
You must understand. These things you say in politics almost carry no meaning. The words that are said will echo empty through the halls for years to come, but the deeds that you follow them with will mean more to these people than any other thing. In politics, it's always like this. Many people say things they do not mean to get the way that they want, to build the world that they want. And now that you have driven the knife in, so to speak. You are more in control and can genuinely help these people if you feel fit.
Leastways, that's the hope, ain't it?
Kind of nods.
I do hope you're correct. I don't mind, as you all know, don't mind, sticking it in the craw of others, but, this situation has been more than just, ribbing of children of nobles and knights and stable hands and common folk. I hope I have not caused my family real trouble.
I think, though these be choppy waters, we will sail our way through them nonetheless. It's a genuine shame what happened to Lord Tyde's wife and children. There is a part of me, though I may have been speaking falsehoods to my mind, that believes maybe his man Lazarus is not so helpful. I know nothing, of course. I've been elsewhere and not spent any time on this island, to be sure. But I don't wonder if our Lord Tyde would not have bounced back somewhat sooner and more completely had it not been for a man whispering greed into his ear. There's a part of me that wonders if there... Well, I don't want to put that on a man's head, unbeknownst, but I do wonder if Lord Tyde and his wife could have grieved in peace had it not been for Lazarus, or if the far-reaching greed of one man is ultimately what caused her to walk into the sea. I think this will be unpleasant, but keep your wits about you and we'll improve it markedly.
Alright.
Well, unless any of you have anything else to add, you may, return to your rooms. But if you wouldn't mind, posting yourself outside my door.
Sure thing.
As I said, that outburst from Lord Tyde has shaken me a little.
Rudder will, put a friendly hand on Martin's head and kind of ruffle his hair like you would, a kid brother almost. You did a good thing out there. You held yourself together. You spoke good and true. Don't let it rattle you so much. Have yourself a sit down. Take a few deep breaths, and I'll make sure nothing gets you.
Ollie kind of
Okay.
sticks his hand out, extends it for a handshake, and says, "You did good, kid."
And I'm messing with my hair, like trying to get it back in place. I'm like, don't do that again. I'd hate to have to see you hung from the battlements. And then I reach out and shake Dolly's hand. But like, give them a little smile and that's that.
All right. Radava, as you are exiting the room, you see the plump, destined boatwright walking towards the room, and he greets you with, Radava, was it?
Aye, that's aye.
Excellent. Might I beg entry? I have some news for the young lord. It must be rather urgent, I think.
Of course. Mind your P's and Q's now and be very sweet.
Oh, of course. And he lets out a little bit of a fart, and oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. And enters the room, and if I don't know what your plans were as far as leaving or staying. He seems open to conversing with anyone that's there. So
I think Thali would try and nudge Radova to maybe step in the room, just in the interest of safety, since the kid asked.
Yeah, he'll let him in and then step in behind him, shut the door, and kind of stand, not quite in front of the door, but to the side of it, in arm's reach, pretty easy.
Yes, exactly.
You see Sir Darren take the opposite side of the door, as well. Seems to be taking after you in that regard.
Okay. Whatever next to Radova.
Yeah, Nicholas is gonna plop himself on the bed and prepare to hear what Destin has to say. As he walks in after excusing himself, he will address, yes, young Lord Martin. I have just been with Lord Camren, and, your words, all of your words, had a rather profound effect on him. I have not seen him that heated in quite some time. Fortunately for you, I will say it was directed at Lazoros, and I fear that we won't be seeing more of him, at least not in the castle, in the near future. I do believe his room is being tossed currently, so forgive any noise that you may hear from that direction.
Oh, what a shame. He was so pleasant.
Yes, well, before we get into the details, I must thank you for not only noticing, but saying something about it. You will forgive my bluntness, but he has been a problem in this house. I cannot say that I am unguilty myself. I clearly partake in plenty of the pleasures that are provided here, the ales and the food and whatnot, but none of my suggestions ever seemed to take root in Lord Camren's mind. Clearly you see we don't necessarily lack the coin. The state of disrepair and the quality of the guard, forgive my saying. I have tried to bring these problems up to him in the past, but I have been outwitted at every turn, and I thank you for seeing the cause of this disruption. That being said, young Lord Martin, I believe your last suggestion was the amount of 900 gold dragons for the lumber required to build your mine and transportation to your island. Is that correct?
Never does anything quickly, so you had time.
Yes, Dustin Boatwright, that was the final number we, that was tossed around before we were all tossed out of the dining hall.
Get an approving nod.
I do appreciate your words. I've never really done this before, but it certainly seemed to me that, as you said, the state of affairs in general around here could have been better, and no one can blame the Lord for his grief, but he does have those he needs to tend to, and those are those in his employ, those around the castle, and those on his island. And I'm just happy that it seems that we will be able to do some good for this family and the people that dwell here.
Yes, I dare say so. With the shadow of Lazoros's influence gone, I dare say we can make some positive changes for the lives here. Not just those in the castle, but for the people of Arlen and Silvermoon Harbor and beyond. I have been given leave by the Lord to speak on his behalf in this matter. He is, I think, still a bit heated to speak to you himself, but rest assured it is not towards you that his anger is any longer. I suppose you wouldn't argue against the sum of 850 golden dragons instead of your 900, in light of the service you have just recently done for us. Would that be amenable to you?
I'd be a fool to turn it down.
Excellent. I will bring this news to his lordship, and we will draw up the contract forthwith. You are, of course, still a guest in our household, and are welcome to stay throughout the course of these negotiations, as you wish. We have ravens, of course, that we can send to your castle, and at this, Nicholas will speak up and say, "Oh, yes, I have a few ravens as well, should we wish to send Lord Skrel news of what has transpired here. I believe I brought 3 of them with us, should we want to send messages back." And Destin says, "Oh, quite right. I'm sure your birds are trained to sail back to your castle better than ours are, having not had conversation these past many years. But yes, of course, you are welcome to stay as long as you wish, and we will get these details ironed out. Thank you again for your service here. I dare say it will have some far-reaching consequences." And
No, Preston, thank you. I would like your honest opinion. Would you think it best for us to leave now, or perhaps tomorrow?
well,
Was more than a little cross.
well, he is quite angry. Perhaps give him time to cool his head a bit. We could, maybe a tour through Arlen or the Silvermoon Harbor. You could stay here for a few more days and enjoy what this place actually has to offer. And yes, once his head is cooled, I'm sure he will be much more jovial than he was at our last parting. And that would give you time to rest and whatnot, and get a lay for the island. It has been so long since we've had lordly visitors. Perhaps we should throw a feast in celebration of this agreement. I will talk it over with the lordship. I'm sure we can find the coin. We can probably find the coin in Lazorus's rooms to throw said feast. But yes, if you would, perhaps a few more days, a week, I think we could do some good here. I think that would be quite good.
Where Rodov is leaning against the door, he'll kind of lift his hand to get Martin's attention. It might not be such a bad idea, if you don't mind my saying, to see a little bit more of the state of things on the island and perhaps find some other ways that we can offer our assistance, as we do wish to make ourselves friends of the Lord Tyde again, correct?
That does sound more than reasonable. However, we would not want to impose.
Oh, it would be no trouble. I'm sure that that we can keep these rooms nice and tidy without you overstaying a welcome. We had prepared for you to stay several days anyway, so it is really no trouble. We would be more than happy to have you.
All right. Well, so it shall be. I believe we shall have no problem staying a few extra days.
Excellent, excellent.
As you say, take in some of the sights, see the island. Thank you, Destin. Just thank you. Hearing those words from you is a bit of a weight off my own shoulders. Thank you. Now, if you don't mind, I will confer with Nicholas, and we shall send a raven to my father, so there's no confusion as to the goings on here.
Of course, of course. Before I leave, if I may have one final word of warning. You noticed, of course, the lavish trappings that Lazoros kept himself with. He did not ever really lack for coin, and coin can buy a lot of different things. I would keep an eye over my shoulder over the next few days during your stay. He will not take kindly to the events of today, so I would be watchful. I don't know whose pockets he may have slipped coin into. I will leave you with that. But again, thank you for what you've done here today. It is a welcoming. It is welcome to hear such words spoken and have such an effect on our lord here. Good day. I will be back to my lord. And he exits and heads down the hall, closes the door behind him. And I think that's where we will end the session for today, at least for story beats and whatnot.
Right.
That being said, this intrigue success is going to give each of you an extra 10 experience points. So go ahead and add another 10 experience points onto what you have.
Huzzah.
I'm experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy would be proud.
And yeah, that was the thing.
Sweet. That was great.
I cannot express how pleased I am that went the way it did.
Yeah, that was one of the eventualities that I thought, you guys might take. I definitely did not think that it would play out quite that way, but I am pretty glad that it did. That was fun to get to do all of that. So cool. I'll go ahead and wrap it up for those at home. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.